Okay, here goes. Let me throw some numbers at you. 118 tests, 7,727 runs at 43, highest score of 235, 22 tons, 46 50s, 100 catches. 161 ODIs, 5,416 runs at 38, highest score 141, 4 tons, 35 50s, 54 catches. 20,440 first-class runs at 44, a high score of 262, not out, 57 hundreds, 105 50s.
Not bad.
Pretty tidy. He's the purist's purist, elegance writ large, and most of us do consume that cover drive in incognito mode. The last time we invited him onto the show, we got Tim Bresnan to say, "Go on the grade cricketer at Warwickshire training," to which he replied, "What's that?" He's our friend, he's your friend, he's Ian Bell, MBE. Belly, welcome to the grade cricketer.
Thanks, guys. How are things? All right.
Things are all right this morning. Things are all right. And can I start with an apology, Belly, for leaving you sitting at your laptop last Friday morning?
It's all good.
You must have been thinking
it's all good.
The height
Just
of these
missed out on a
blokes.
game of golf, that's all.
Billy, can I ask you, on your Wikipedia, which obviously you manage and curate, it says your nickname's...
I wish I did, but I don't. But go on.
says your nickname's Belly, which I think I understand, or the Sledgehammer of Eternal Justice. What?
Yeah. I have no idea. No idea. I don't even know who writes these stuff. Like, it's incredible, isn't it? Incredible.
Could be worse, I suppose.
It could be worse, yeah.
Could be worse. Could be worse.
Well, we'll have to start with the OG question, Belly, as we do on this show. You were an earmarked worldie from a very young age. What's your relationship, if any, to club cricket?
Oh, massively. When I look back, I mean, there was a couple of stages, really. I think, first I was very lucky playing in the Birmingham League where I did, which is obviously a strong standard of club cricket. And I had a team that actually, or I suppose a club that actually allowed me at 14 years of age just to open the batting and go and play, do you know what I mean, at the highest level. So again, without that opportunity and exposure to, men's cricket at an early age, I don't think I'd have got to where I got to. So it wasn't always about the wins and losses with that group, that team. They had a good side, but it was also about giving youngsters opportunities. So very grateful, to that team at Coffernorth Warwick. Actually, my son's playing an under 9s game on Sunday back at my old ground, so that'll be an interesting one. And then actually, playing club cricket in Australia in Perth for University of WA, that for me was another massive part of my career or movement, really, because I probably played a couple of years already for Warwickshire. Burst on the scene, did really well. As you do, your second season's a bit tougher, and you've got to figure things out. And John Inverarity at the time was head coach, and he basically just told me, you go to Australia, here's the chairman's number, which it was a guy called Kevin Penter, I think it was, at the time. And Chris Rogers' dad actually was part of the club as well. And they said, right, get yourself air tickets. That's where you're going this winter. And actually, you look back, it's probably the best thing that ever happened for me. And I'm sure a lot of English players say the same thing. It was just I'd obviously been very lucky that I'd gone through the English system as such, like in the academies and 19s and done all that. But this was go out there, fend for yourself, live for yourself, do all your own stuff, not being told where to be and what to do. And actually came back a much better cricketer. So I think there's two parts, certainly my club cricket, which again, I wouldn't have been or played the games I had for England if it wasn't for those experiences and the people I met, in that period of time.
I've done a bit of digging, Belly, and make no mistakes, the tentacles are long around the English club game for us. First, multiple people from all levels have said you were just a very good boy growing up and there's literally no dirt on you, which is disappointing. But second, and maybe you can fill us in here. So I was told in 2019 you were called in to play for Nolan Dorridge, prestigious club in Solihull in the Midlands for the
literally around the back of my back of the house. Yeah,
right. Well, and it was the big local derby. So let me just set this up. It was against the league. This is what I'm told. Anonymous source.
No, against Birkswell, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Against
You're
the
selling
league.
it well. You're selling it well.
It was against the league champs, who are very new money, very meaty, as they were a small village club 15 years ago. It's just a little whack there.
Yeah.
The club. So the clubs kept your appearance for them quiet until the Saturday morning at your request. Didn't want a big
well, yeah, it probably was. Yeah, it got leaked a bit earlier than I thought. My request was until the end of play on the Saturday would have been nice.
Well, but it was announced on socials and it went round like wildfire. A lot of people rock up to watch.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, so there's the scene set.
Yeah.
Big local derby. You're
Belly's
turning out for Nolan Dorridge. Belly's in.
Well, you
what
missed
happened
a
next?
fair bit out. You've missed a fair bit out. I've got to play it out a little bit more than that. But put it this way, if people had turned up about 15 minutes after the start, they'd have missed it anyway. But you missed out. I mean, I've been out. I've had surgery. I was coming back. I'll be honest with you. I mean, actually, I only played 2 games that year, actually, and that was one of them. So that wasn't ideal. But yeah, I just had surgery. I was trying to get back playing. And like anything, you need to get out and what it feels like, and probably wasn't quite right. But yeah, it lasted one ball, which is also a great leveler, isn't it, for all of us? Like the game is an amazing game, wherever you're playing, whether it's, at K&D or you're playing at Lords in a test match, it's an amazing leveler. So yeah, it wasn't the ideal start I wanted. What I did try and do, and when this goes down well, whether you've heard this, I actually bought all the lads a beer in the dressing room, nearly apologising, basically, there you go, lads. I don't want, apologising for the one ball of, a test player coming back and playing club cricket. So, but yeah, that was thanks for bringing that one up.
No,
yeah,
that's all right. Well, it's a club cricket show,
Yeah.
I've got...
I didn't even get a bowl as well, though. I was expecting a bowl, but... And then we had like Dan Mousley, a young lad from Warwickshire, swaggering around with his shirt out, belting it to all parts as well, which was great.
He nicked off to former Walks and Leicester seamer Richard Jones. They were whooping and squealing like nothing you've ever seen before or heard before. So how do those emotions upon being dismissed compare to being dismissed for England?
Oh, worse. I was like, what the fuck was I doing here today? That's basically what I was thinking as I walked off. Literally, I was like, what have I just done on a Saturday here? Yeah.
And how have you turned?
Probably worse, if I'm honest with you.
Have you turned? Have you rolled the England kit into the dressing room? Have you walked out to about a bit of tape over the 3 lines badge? Like,
I couldn't do that. I had to get all the Nolan Dorridge shirts and caps. I would never. I've seen people do that. Actually, I think Dan Mousley might have been wearing his Warwickshire shirt with his name on the back. I couldn't have done that at all.
Hey, when you're
that's what I'm saying. I said to them, I'm happy to play. I'm still coming back. Don't know where I am with my body anyway. So please don't say too much. So when I woke up out of bed, I was like, okay, great. That's gone down well. Social media's got that. So that's brilliant.
Hey, when you're playing grade cricket over in Perth, I think Dom Sibley played a couple of years over in Perth as well. But what does a young Ian Bell face with in the nets? You wouldn't have faced many in your half in those first early net sessions when a young Ian Bell, this young English bloke's come over, bit of grade cricket. Are you just getting bumped in the nets? Are people being very accommodating to you? What's the sort of setup over there?
No, it's good. I mean, that's what I enjoyed about it. I mean, how much it's definitely, I thought, was taken a little bit more serious than maybe club cricket was here in terms of your training and preparation was definitely more professional. I mean, I do remember my conversation with Chris Rogers' dad when I first arrived, and it was a bit like, bearing in mind, I've already probably played 2.5 years of professional cricket in England. And I don't know whether it was just get a bit of a reaction, but it was like, I think you're probbe starting the second team. And I was a bit like, so I didn't know quite how that was going to work. But luckily I started in the first, and it was a pretty good year for all of us. But there's some good guys, actually. We had a young group of lads, all about the same age. A couple of the guys on the Warriors staff as well. So, we had, and they were available a lot of the time as well, rather than maybe the first team boys who only played once every so often. But yeah, we had a good group, and as in anything, I felt like it was a nice balance because, we played hard on the Saturday, but in the Saturday evening, we enjoyed ourselves a lot as well.
Yeah, I bet. Good circuit in Perth. Now, but the 2005 Ashes must be at a weird time in your career because you only played 3 tests, I think, beforehand, and it's arguably the best test series ever. And it's sort of at the beginning of your career, you achieved so many great things after that, and you probably didn't achieve it, the heights of your career in that Ashes series necessarily. But how do you reflect on the 05 Ashes series now? Because it's just, you probably watch it 3 times a day, but in terms of in your career, it's like you did better things than that.
For me, I think it was the biggest education I had, I think, through my early career, really. As I said, I think the 3 test matches I had before, 2 against Bangladesh, 1 against the West Indies, and that, without being disrespectful, playing an Ashes series was a different level, not necessarily just in standard, but just the whole, expectation and the media scrutiny went up. So I think for that, like you said, I mean, I know. I mean, when you're a top order player, whether it's for Australia or for England, top 5, your job is to score runs and plenty of them because there's so many good players who can get into that side. So I look back and know I didn't get the volume of runs, but I think it made me a better player in terms of the education. You know, playing all those lots, Warren McGrath, Lee, Gillespie, you know, and obviously watching Ponting and that 150 at Manchester. I mean, again, one of the best knocks I've ever seen or witnessed. You know, there was things there that again. Like in sport, you do have tough times. It's how you react to them and how you come back. And I think that series for me was a bit of a watershed moment in terms of, okay, I want to play Test cricket. Now I've just watched the best in the world in front of me on both sides. I saw Flintoff do what he did, KP do what he did. So if I want to have a career at this level, I've got so much more to do. Luckily, I think for me, after a series like that where you don't play as well as you'd like, it's important to bounce back quick. So we went to Pakistan. And I think I was leading run score on that tour, a couple of hundred. So I sort of kicked back in quite quickly, you know, and then went on, I suppose, you know, for the next few years as well. But yeah, I mean, that series is phenomenal. Like I said, individually, there's some weird, it's not my finest out of the 7 Ashes I've played in. But I would look back and think in terms of an education, I learnt more in that series than I probably learnt in any series I played in.
Yeah.
Belly, as you well know, in Australia, it's more important to look good than be effective.
Yeah.
Like the player with the chest and the biceps and the crisp stroke play will always win the affections of the public over anything that looks yuck. And that's why we would have always trusted you in the team. So tell me, look, you know, what's it like to be a good-looking cricketer? As in, you look good when you play, and you're good looking too. I just saw your forearms as well. Were you aware? How old were you when you were aware people were just purring over your technique? Like, did you know that you were aesthetically pleasing? Did you ever feel objectified? And you know, like, you know, did you ever think I'm more than my cover drive? What was your relationship to your attractiveness?
Look, I think when it works two ways, doesn't it? Obviously, it's nice. I mean, like you said, when you retire and you step back out now and you look back and you actually, you know, you spend a lot of time worrying about numbers and averages and all that stuff and all the rubbish that comes with it. But you look back and actually at the end of the day, it's an entertainment business, isn't it? You're trying to, yes, you want to win, and obviously winning is important, especially the Ashes. But the most thing when you retire now and people say they enjoyed watching you play, obviously is you know, it's nice to hear. But I think, it's sort of what goes both ways. Because again, like sometimes, you know, for me personally, if I got out in a certain way, sometimes it looks like I wasn't trying or I wasn't, you know, crabby enough to make it look like, you know what I mean? And I think it goes both ways. There's the nice part, but also the bit that people go, oh, he just, you know, it's just a bit effortless and he should have actually got into the ball or he got out in a certain way. Whereas somebody who makes it look a little bit harder is always scrapping away.
He's really trying.
You know, they always look like they're fighting. So I think there's that balancing act to have, isn't there? But I'd rather have always had a nice cover drive. So it's always nice. I suppose that for me will always, even in 20 years' time, people will remember me having a nice cover drive rather than just scrapping around for runs.
Yeah. Ian Bell or Graham Smith. I mean,
got a big bat.
He's got a big bat, yeah. Hey, Belly, 2010-11, I actually didn't realise they played an Ashes series that year. I sort of missed that one.
Yeah.
But in the last 30 years, England have won 6 games in Australia. Three of those came in that series, and you guys fucking smashed us. 3 wins by an innings in that series. You averaged 60. But I mean, 62 or something. I mean, but at what point did you get the pads on in that series? Because that was just cook and trot.
No, I was going to say I averaged 60, but I hardly got in until the 120th over. So it was good. And I think that's there's no doubt. I think if you ask any of the guys, I reckon certainly the lads I played a lot of cricket with, if you could go back to one period in that or end of time, it would be that SCG dressing room when we obviously won the Ashes, because the reality is when you watch it, you know how hard that is to win over there, and to sit in the SCG drinking your beer, smoking cigars is as good a feeling as it ever can be for an English cricketer. So it's phenomenal, really, to be honest with you. But again, I mean, like in anything, and with the Ashes coming up as well, it's volume of runs. If you don't score big runs, you can't win out there. So I think that was the fact, as you said, Trotty, Cookie. Well, you can go through the list. Was it everyone was playing well? I think that's my reflection on that tour, really. Actually, just the whole squad, not just a couple, but the whole 15 were just in the right place at the right time. Everyone was in good place mentally, physically. I think we lost, Stephen Finn and Broady. Finney got left out. Broady was injured. Then Bresnan and Tremlett come in. So it's sort of like we just had a squad of everyone just at their peak. And maybe Australia weren't quite at their peak. And it just, it was the right place at the right time. All our preparation was good. I think we'd won in WA. I think we'd won then in Adelaide. We went and beat Australia A. And then obviously on to the Gabba. But I mean, my first tour, I remember playing against New South Wales. And I think we played, on that tour, it's the best thing. We played 11v11. Basically, we're looking to win these games. The other games we played as practice games. But my first experience of a touring game was we played New South Wales, who obviously at the time, it was literally like test bowler after test bowler after test bowler. We were getting smashed. So we were losing to state sides before we even got to the Gabba. So mentally, you could feel that this was a different challenge. So I know for that tour, Straussy was very much adamant about we have to win the warm-up games because we want to take that momentum to the Gabba from the experiences we've had before. So everything just worked at the right place. Like I said, the players, even the players who missed out could have arguably come in and done a good job.
You're talking about a bit of a traditional approach there, Belly, and I want to sort of link that to this summer, this Australian summer if possible. So you came out pretty hard against England's rotation system after they lost to India in the shortest test since the Second World War, citing that India wouldn't do the same thing that England's doing if they were 1-0 up. I know there's some differences there around the amount of cricket they're playing and stuff like that. If I could just narrow in on that a little bit, like, who are the big dogs of the bowling cartel for England in your view? So let's say series on the line against India at home, Australia away. Who are the bowlers you want on the team sheet there in those big moments that you're speaking about?
What, the ones coming up or the ones in the past?
One's coming up, yeah.
Well, I think Jimmy Anderson will always be there and thereabouts, even though, it's incredible what he's doing. I think the one thing England will have going forward now, and I'd be really fascinated to see, if they can keep them fit, certainly for the Ashes, you're going to have the likes of Jofra, Mark Wood and Ollie Stone, all can bowl 90-mile-an-hour plus, which I think that'll be the first English side for a long time that can say they're going to take three guys of that pace, which will be really fascinating to see how that combination works. And they'll have a little look, I think, for this New Zealand coming up, the New Zealand series coming up now. They'll just have a little look of other options. Craig Overton as well has a little bit of success and actually played some good cricket in the last time England were there. And I think that my point with the rotation thing was, I agree with, I think in this current climate with, all the, regulations and you can't get out your hotel. And I agree with it. We've got to look after the player welfare. But for me, when you win games of cricket, you go again. You can't. That's very dangerous to start making changes. And I think the rotation's good. But for me, if you're playing, I think India were at the time of ranked number 1 in the world. It's hard enough to win over there. So you pick your 15 that play that 4 test matches, and then they get left out of the one-day series and the T20s or whatever. I don't think you can have people coming in and out of a series, only for 4 games. That was my point. I've got no problem. I think we have to look after all the players and it's been brilliant to see cricket going on in a pandemic. I think all the players have to take credit for that. And there's no, we all sit here and have an opinion, but there's no real right or wrong with it. It's impossible to get the right answer. But I just think when you're playing the best teams in the world, you just need to have your 15 players there and you go with it.
Billy, we're talking about, obviously Australia, hard place to go. And it's obviously a huge year, huge 12 months, but huge winter coming up for England. 2011, Trent Bridge, last ball before tee. Owen Morgan flicks one to the leg side. You know where I'm going with this. Ball stopped in the boundary. Everyone thinks it's gone for 4. Dhoni runs you out. Goes to the third umpire. You're given out. Huge commotion. Crowd booing. Dhoni at tea time withdraws the appeal. You come back out. You score some more runs. I think you're about 130 at the time. 2019, Australia against Pakistan in the UAE. Very similar thing happens. Australia runner Azhar Ali, and they give him a send-off. Thoughts?
It's a good one. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I think what I look back on that, again, for me, I must have been hungry or something because I literally belted for the pavilion when I thought it was 4. If it was the other way around, I'd have been safe and we'd have been fine. But yeah, it's interesting how different people see different things, isn't it? But it obviously got Dhoni a Spirit of the Year for the decade or something like that, or Spirit of the whatever the game of the year award. But Yeah, a bit of a mistake on my behalf. Should never do that.
So what was peak Ian Bell? Was it 2011? I think you hit 500s in the year, or 2013 you dominated the Ashes, player of the series, 300s in the Ashes series. What's peak Ian Bell?
Peak,
What's peak?
Yeah, well, probably again from 11 to sort of 13, those 3 years really. But as a team as well, we were winning home and away, which is again to say in that period that we'd won in Australia and won in India as well, which again are so hard to do in Test cricket. So yeah, that period. I think again for me, again like for any, I think Australian or English, young lad growing up, you want to, if you get involved in an Ashes, you want to be man of the series. You see all the, iconic things that go on. Certainly for an Englishman, when you're obviously watching, you grow up on Botham's Ashes and watching what he did, and then we sort of witnessed what Flintoff had done, and obviously Peterson at the Oval, and then what Cookie had done as well with the volume of runs. So you just want one series where you can say you had such an impact on the whole series. For me in 13, that was just, I suppose, what I got to. I played at the level that I've always wanted to play at, and to score hundreds, 300s in a series, in probably a tighter series than what it looked like. And then obviously we know what happened a couple of months later when obviously Mitchell Johnson was fully fit. So it would have been nice to live on that a little bit longer, for two more years or something like that in the last Ashes.
COVID's been a tough time for many. Everyone's dealt with it in different ways. Last year, a clip emerged of you taking the toilet roll challenge, which showed your very young child underarming a toilet roll to you, whereupon you cover drove the roll quite forcefully, then said, "Don't bowl there, son," before tapping or before gardening the tiled floor with a few prods of your bat. So what's your style when you play with your children? Are you sort of genial with the occasional reminder that you're Ian Bell, or is it an all-out cricketing assault?
Yeah, it's win at all cost. Win at all cost. It has to be. They've got to learn it early. The old man knows best. But I'll be honest with you, when it comes to cricket, Joseph, he does not listen to me at all. I could sit there like, Joseph, should we go? And not interested. It'll palm me up. Anyone else can walk past and talk cricket to him or coach him in the nets, he'll be fine. But if it comes down to his old man, no interest at all. So might have to sit down and watch a few more DVDs.
Can I just ask you one more, Billy? Put down some DVDs. That's brilliant.
Even that DVDs, but I don't even have DVDs anymore.
What's a DVD, Dad? Yeah, exactly. Now, Billy, you played in one of the strongest England teams ever, I'd say. You won 5 Ashes series. That puts you on par with, I think, Ponting, Bradman, Botham. They were pretty good. You play with some of the great England players, But what does Kevin Pietersen talk about mid-pitch?
Do you know what? Actually, he's actually good to bat with. We were very our partnerships absolutely excellent because we're very different in terms of his strengths and my strengths are completely different. But actually, he's so relaxed. I think that's the thing, isn't it? With when you're batting, you can't be intense the whole time. Actually, majority of the time when you're in the middle, it's all about. You actually talk about things sometimes that aren't even related to what's going on at either end. Really, it's just about switching off. I mean, he was a genius. I mean, any player that very lucky to play with some of the best England players of all time, but. Kev on his day, he was a freak. He could just turn it on its head, and a great player. But yeah, very relaxed. And then that was the best thing about it. Actually, some of the best players, again, mid-pitch and stuff, it's not intense at all. It's, you've got to be able to switch on and switch off. Otherwise, you're just going to burn out, really.
I'll throw this in. Just, Billy, it was another anonymous tip-off. Just looking for a response. Just literally says, ask him about the tax he adds to every story. We call him the tax man. He will flip it round and
I know who that's come from.
He will flip it around and say, that's me.
But own story.
But that's his go-to whenever he's under the pump. Great at deflecting banter onto someone else, which it's actually a tough one for you because if you do deflect this, it sort of proves this person's point.
Yeah,
so
I can tell you exactly who it's from because he is the tax man. And that came from Yorkshire. So Tim Bresnan, who his nickname is the tax man, because exactly he's taxing on a story, then deflecting to somebody else. He's just described himself, basically.
It's very meta. What's just happened?
Shambles of a human being. I was trying to be nice to him there as well. I wasn't about bringing him in and Boxing Day. Wish Broady was available for that Boxing Day now. It would have been a much better.
I reckon every single one of our listeners would have been.
Yeah, he is the tax man. I might add 20%. He adds 40%. He's UK tax man. That is for sure.
Every single one of our listeners would have been able to identify that straight away. Yeah. They call him the tax man, Bresnan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, he's definitely the tax man.
Belly's So sorry for leaving your iPhone last Friday. Thanks so much for being available today.
That's all right. You owe me a game of golf. That's fine.
Yeah. No worries. Happy to play. Yeah, that's fine. That's not a bad result. All right. See you next time, mate. Cheers.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys.